What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, the podcast that wastes hours of your life that you will never ever get back. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we have Fantology at home, kids, because we are joined by Steven, one of the hosts of the Fantology podcast, for finally a new Creators Corner episode. It has been way too long since our last one back in October. Can you believe it's been that long since we've done a Creators Corner? We are so glad to be back. But before we get into the show, I'll remind everyone that you can reach out to us on Twitter or Discord if you'd like to. Or if you want to support us, you can do so on Patreon, where you get to see all of these episodes live as we record them, plus other bonus content. Gabe and I do something called Fantasy Files After Dark, and it's mostly just us hanging out like this and goofing around and playing some fun games and stuff. So if you'd like to see that, go check it out over on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who supports us over there. Lastly, did you know that you could get a free hardcover trilogy of your choosing? Play our 2024 bingo card and fill it out as you watch episodes from this year. And if you're the first person to spell out bingo, we will straight up buy you a trilogy. So check that out. Instructions are in the description. There's like a video and you can kind of skip to the chapter that has it, and that'll explain everything. Also, obviously, everything else is linked in the description as well, like our Twitter and Discord and Patreon and all that. Quickest intro ever, I think. with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's introduce our guest here, Steven from Fantology. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Hey guys, it's awesome to be on.
So I wanted to, I guess, kind of let you introduce yourself a little bit. Do you want to talk about, what you do as far as content creation goes, and what you guys talk about over on Fantology and stuff?
Yeah, so I am a fellow nerd like yourselves. Obviously, you can all in this together, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I participated in a 1,000 plus collaborative Dungeons and Dragons game yesterday at a local mall. And
like 100 people?
Or did I say 100? I mean 1,000. There were over 1,000 people.
No, he said 1,000.
At the mall. Yeah.
Wow. What?
All working together to take down the Divine Prince Eos.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
How does that even work? Like, is it even turn-based at that point, or is there multiple groups of people doing?
Yeah, so it's
things?
a lot of tables, just a bunch of tables of 6 players, and each one had a DM that knew what was going on, and then the players made choices together, and then based off of what each table, like how it was going for everyone, then they reported back to the generals, who were like the organizers of the whole event.
Wow.
And then based off how it was going in aggregate, they made some bigger decisions. And then ultimately it just came down to everyone dealing enough damage to Eos, the big bad. And
that's so cool.
So it's just a cool one shot. It's
really that's awesome,
kind of unique idea. And I think it was the
insane.
Guinness World Record for biggest D&D game.
That is so cool.
And was that online, or was it in person?
No, I was in person. I live in Utah, which is seriously the nerdiest place in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that they can pull off a massive D&D game there.
That's super.
That's incredible. Yeah,
that was a little bit of a distraction from the intro that you asked me to give.
Oh, it's all
no,
good.
yeah, no, it's all good. That's what we do here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do.
That's so cool though, because we had Craig on from the Legendarium, and he's also from Utah, and he was telling me how nerdy Utah is, and I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. Cool.
Yeah, that's funny. So Legendarium was probably an original inspiration for what we wanted to do.
Right.
At Fantology. We started back in we started before COVID, just a little bit before COVID, and then it worked out really nicely because COVID was a time where everyone was looking for a hobby, something to do at home, and podcasting was perfect. But Legendarium was definitely an inspiration because at that time there weren't quite as many fantasy podcasts, so we were thinking we could do what they're doing and have a good time. And it was when Daniel Green was starting as well, and we had some aspirations to do booktubing, which never really went anywhere because it turns out booktubing is actually a lot harder than it looks. But Anyway, so yeah, I'm kind of like the head person over at Fantology, and it's 5 of us. We're like high school friends, really like lifelong friends at this point,
Oh,
and
sweet.
we're just chatting about fantasy books and TV shows and whatever, similar to yourselves, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen you guys around the Twitter space a lot. Like when we started our podcast, yeah, I saw you guys kind of in that community of people, and I've checked out a couple of your episodes. Namely, recently was Will of the Many. We'll talk about that a little bit later for sure.
Yeah, awesome book.
Yeah. Oh god, it was so good. But yeah, I've seen you guys around, checked out a few episodes, and like you, we took inspiration from sort of from the Legendarium. I would say for me at least, they were probably an inspiration. However, when I started listening to them, I had this idea in my head of like, oh, this a podcast has to be in person with all this really nice equipment and stuff. And it
Right.
wasn't until I started listening to Friends Talking Fantasy where I realized, oh, these guys aren't in the same room. They're doing this over like Zoom or StreamYard or whatever. And they're just like regular guys who talk about this stuff. And so that was kind of what pushed me to kind of look over to Gabe and be like, dude, do you want to do this thing? And Gabe and I have been friends for probably going on like 5 years now or something, right?
Yep.
But yeah,
And when
that's
you have
kinda,
that like longtime friend dynamic, it makes it awesome. The
Yeah.
conversations, people like listening to that stuff. That's why Friends Talking Fantasy is so successful, because Dylan and Charles are awesome, and they've
Yeah.
got the buddy thing going.
right.
Yep.
They're fantastic about that because you can tell that there's so many moments where like one of them will say something and you can just tell there's that like unspoken we'll talk about this later, or it's something that we've like talked about in the past kind of comment.
Mm-hmm.
I love those moments.
Shad says hey.
Oh,
He's
sweet.
popping into the chat.
Shad Zaman, one of our patrons, is watching live just like you guys can if you back us at the Mistborn tier. How's it going, Shad? Thanks for hopping
What's
in.
up, Shad?
Another podcast that's really good at that is, have you listened to the Overdue podcast?
You mentioned that in the show notes. I actually have not.
Oh man, I would highly recommend it. I would say they have like 1 million episodes, and I would say maybe like 20% of them or so are like fantasy sci-fi. But
Okay.
they have like a Red Rising episode. They have like Murderbot episode. Like they have a bunch of like well-known fantasy books. But basically, how this podcast works is they're two best friends, just like Charles and oh my god, Dylan. Thank you. Just like the two of them. I would say they're probably even wackier. Like they're a little bit more like kind of higher energy and goofy.
Okay.
And basically how it works is one of them will pick a book and read it, and then the other one will do like Wikipedia research on it and get like understand when it was published and what was happening around the writing of the book and stuff like that. And the person that read the book will spoil the entire thing to their friend and be like, yeah, so this happens and this happens. And it's really funny because it's not like a detailed like beat by beat. It's very like goofy, and things are kind of painted in broad strokes, and it's usually just very like if you're the kind of person that needs like a very deep dive into a book, it's probably not like the right podcast for you. But it is very goofy. It's very fun. I have laughed out loud more times at that podcast than I think I have with any other one. So I would highly recommend it.
That sounds like a
Especially-
funny premise.
Yeah, it's great because the one friend who hasn't read the book is like asking questions. Or like, so when you say that Darrow does this thing, do you mean is what I'm thinking correct? And the other person will be like, yeah, kinda, and then try to like explain it further, and it often leads to just I don't really know how to explain it better than that, but it leads to like very comical discussions, and their chemistry together on a podcast. I haven't seen another podcast that equals it. It's really, really good. So highly recommend.
Nice.
So let's see. So when did you guys start Fantology and kind of what, you mentioned Legendarium was kind of, an inspiration. What did the beginning look like? What did the conversation look like when, you reached out to your friends and you're like, hey, let's start this thing? What was the kind of origin of all that?
Yeah, so we started like late 2019. So
Okay.
going on, it'll be coming up on actually 5 years, which is longer than I thought. Time flies when you're
Yep.
doing a podcast.
That's
I
awesome.
Sure
guess.
does.
Yeah, and we're coming up on 300 episodes pretty soon as well.
Nice.
Nice.
So when we first started, it's really fun. First like there's like this rush of like doing a podcast for whatever reason. Like it's really fun. For those listening, if you haven't been on a podcast before, it's actually a lot more fun than it seems for whatever reason. Like just the fact that you're recording makes the conversation so much more interesting.
Yeah.
So when we were first doing them, we were popping off like 2 episodes a week. It was like, and especially during COVID, like I literally had nothing else to do.
Yeah,
So I was like,
totally.
I'm just gonna like do this. And since then, we've really backed it down. We do like 1 episode a week now, and I was also trying to do more like booktube things, which, like I said, is a lot harder than it seems, and never really went anywhere. We do have a YouTube channel, but it's not like so. Initially, it was more of a, I don't know, no, I'm not gonna say like a lifestyle, but like I was really into it for a while, and since then it's kind of backed down in the last like couple of years. Now, it's fun to still do, and we plan to do this for a while. Honestly, I think the 2 main draws for me are, one, just having a connection with my like 4 best friends that we've kind of moved around. We were all in college together, but now it's harder to connect, and so when you have this like scheduled thing, it's nice to maintain.
Totally.
And we've built up a Discord and have some buddies on there that we've met over the years, and so it's fun to kind of keep that contact together and just have this like little community of folks, and try to be like open to whoever wants to hop in and have this like nice corner of the internet, hopefully.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to keep a little corner of the internet like away from all the drama is hard sometimes for sure.
But like the science fiction fantasy community, there's like so many nice people. Maybe it comes from like nerds being ostracized for so many years. Not anymore though. We're the
right.
That's right.
The rise of the nerds now.
We're coming back.
But for whatever we have this like as a people, we have this like sense of we've got to be nice to everyone because they were all mean to us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you're kind of mentioning there how when you start podcasting, you have like a bit of a rush, and then it kind of like levels out after a while, and like you have your good weeks and bad weeks and stuff. And I would say that was probably the same for us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe, but I think we also had like an initial like very high, and to the point where I think besides maybe a week here and there, I think we've only done 1 episode a week, but I hit that point where I was like, I just want to make more and more content, and so I was doing an episode a week, and editing all this, like an episode a week, and then doing like a booktube video with like a green screen and having all the like pictures jump up and like all the like special editing stuff.
Yeah, that's tough. It's so much work. Yeah,
it's so much work, and I eventually burnt out pretty hard on that. I kept it going almost until the end of last year. I was consistently putting out an episode and a booktube video a week. And then as we kind of crossed the finish line of last year, I'm going to chill way out on this. I'm only going to do like a booktube video if I have something I really want to talk about. And so like yesterday, I was sitting at home for most of the morning, and I just sat there and wrote out a couple scripts, and I'm like, well, when I'm ready to talk about these topics, I'll turn on the camera and record these scripts and do the editing over the course of like a week or so. So I've kind of scaled that back a lot, but I think Gabe and I have both noticed, I would say especially in the last year, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe, but there's definitely been weeks where it's like we don't have anything planned for this weekend. Should we just have a break?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely happened more often lately.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is nice.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's nice to not have anything scheduled, you know, go out with family or do whatever else. But
Right.
yeah, in the beginning, you were talking about the beginning, and I just remember, you know, when we first started this thing, I was so nervous the whole time, just because I think I was super camera shy,
Sure.
you know, and all that. And so it's kind of the opposite for me. I feel like now, like, I'm more and more excited, and it's higher up for me than I was before, because I dreaded it sometimes in the beginning. It's like I don't want to talk in front of a camera.
Right.
But now it's a lot easier and, you know,
Yeah.
nicer.
I mean, one thing about being on a podcast as often as we've been is I think it really, like, the skill of being able to talk coherently, which, you know, I don't always do still, right?
Same.
But the ability to put together a sentence without going, like, what, like, that's actually harder to do than people realize, but it's really, like, people actually really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally. I wish that I could get rid of my ums and my likes. I still do them all the time. But and I'm curious if this is true for Gabe as well. So I've always been like a very social person. I've always felt like I could pretty much talk to anybody about anything. But I feel even more now after having done, because we're on year 3 of podcasting, and I feel like you know, we've had a lot of guests on. Like almost every week we have like a different guest on, whether we're talking about a book or doing something like this. And I really, really feel strongly that I could go up and talk to anybody on the street about like anything after doing this for 3 years straight.
Yeah, I've always had like a really debilitating fear of public speaking and or, you know, being in front of people doing stuff, right? It's probably the biggest fear that I've had. And I still have that fear, but I think that doing the podcast and being able to learn to be coherent, like you said, and your sentences are full and you can, you know, think about what you're saying while you're saying it has been super helpful, you know, just for confidence, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of boosting it a little bit. So, yeah, it's, you know, besides the videos and the content, like even that is a huge life upgrade for me. It's like something that I, you know, wish I would have done sooner.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch one of our first initial episodes, and then watch,
like, I wouldn't even turn my camera on. I was so terrified.
Yeah,
I'd just be a voice.
The first couple episodes.
Yeah,
but if you go back and watch one of the early episodes and just kind of pay attention to Gabe, and then go to like the Will of the Many episode we did like a couple weeks ago. Huge, like miles and miles of improvement. It's been so cool to watch. Yeah. What about you, Steve? Did you have any like camera shyness at first, or were you kind of like leading the charge in that department?
I don't think so. Not much, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm sure there's a lot of improvement from our initial episodes, but in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I had done I had an uncle actually who started a podcast, very small. It was talking about like fantasy basketball, and which is something I'm into. I'm into sports quite a bit, and so I hopped on like a couple of his podcast episodes, and I just thought it was a blast. And he was really good at it. He's just really good at talking in general.
Yep.
So that was also another little inspiration, and so I was really excited to do it right away. I'm sure that I've gotten a lot better over the years. But and I don't think our initial episodes were cameras either. Not maybe less of a fear of being on camera, more of just a why are we recording this on video because no one's gonna watch it type of thing.
I get that
our
too.
YouTube channel was like a couple of years, I think, or maybe it was like a year. I don't know. It came later. Our initial, if you go back, I've like since uploaded them all. But if you were to look at our initial episodes on YouTube, they're no faces.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we were trying to decide at the beginning too, like, do we want to just put this up on Spotify or do we want to put it on YouTube? And for some reason, I really don't know why, but I leaned really heavily towards YouTube. I think it was mostly just because I knew how to upload to YouTube, and that seemed like the simplest thing to me. But yeah, I think the first couple times I had my camera on, Gabe didn't have his, and then eventually he did after he felt like comfortable like talking within the setting of a podcast. And I think it also helped that we had our other friend Chris on too, and it kind of allowed for conversation to flow in three ways rather than back and forth.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we kind of just stuck to YouTube. We have some stuff up on Spotify, but one thing I really want to do this year, I've kind of been setting some money aside for it. I don't really know how much it would cost, but I want to pay someone to go through our entire YouTube catalog and move it all over to Spotify. And I wish there was I wish
An app or
YouTube would,
service. Yeah.
yeah, or like
Yeah.
I wish YouTube would like instate a feature where it's just like you click, everything goes over, like restreams to Spotify. That'd be super cool. But it's like a whole process because Spotify only accepts MP3 or WAV files, and so
Right.
you can't take your MP4 from YouTube and just move it right over. You have to convert it and
Yeah.
then make like a completely different thumbnail because it's a different size, and then move it all over to Spotify. So I just want to find somebody to do it.
It would be a lot of
honestly.
work. Yeah.
Hey, Shad.
Yeah.
Shad asked. He says, "Yeah, there you go. What
Okay.
sports do you like to watch, Steven?"
Mostly basketball and football. I do kind of like dip into most other sports as well. Although this year I told myself like I'm just not going to waste any more time on baseball because
Yeah.
I just don't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
I'm from Arizona. I'm from Arizona initially, so I cheer for the Arizona sports teams. So I did hop on the Diamondbacks bandwagon when they went to the World Series last year. But like I don't get the point of watching a regular season baseball game anymore. but I do go pretty hard into basketball and football.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I am not a sports guy really in any way. I enjoy playing volleyball in the summer. I think that's a ton of fun. I love pickleball. But
Nice.
yeah.
As does the rest of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a national pastime, right? But I have a couple friends that are die hard into baseball, like so into it, and I'm like, dude, I just don't get what makes this game fun. I'm just like watching it on TV does nothing for me. At least like soccer or something, there's like a fast pace, like going back and forth. But baseball, I'm just like.
Yeah.
Okay. He also asks, who are your favorite teams? I'm a Colts and Spurs fan.
So so like I said, I'm from Arizona, so I cheer for the Arizona teams. The Cardinals have never been any good. Yeah, so I'm honestly, as far as like my passion for the NFL, it's not super high.
Yeah.
But I did get pretty into the Suns over the past few years. Although I'm really depressed right now as to where we're at. There, it doesn't seem like we've mortgaged our entire future and our present is not getting the job done. If you're a Spurs fan, Shad, I'd be a little excited there. I think they've got some chances going forward with Wemby, who is also a fellow nerd. I don't know
cool.
if you guys. Yeah, he's a big Brandon Sanderson fan. They actually.
I saw this in a
Cool.
thing recently.
Yeah. And I think when he was at a Jazz game, when the Spurs came to Utah to play the Jazz, they like met up and took a picture together.
Wow, that's so cool. There was somebody I forget which booktuber it was, but somebody in the past couple days made, or I think it was Jay from Captured in Words. He made a video and he was showing like these athletes that are big Brandon Sanderson fans and how one of them had like read the end of whatever the last Stormlight book was. Right before the game to like get all pumped up for it. I'm like, that's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I think that was Wemby. I think there was
it?
an
Okay.
article about that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's so great. And
And the picture's very comical. I don't know if you know Spencer, but this guy is like 7'6", 7
Whoa.
foot.
shoot.
Like,
Okay.
he's a rookie, and he's kind of supposed to be like the next,
Big, yeah.
great, the next big thing. So him standing next to Brandon's not like a short guy. He's like he's probably 6 foot or so.
Okay.
But he looks tiny.
Yeah, 6 foot to 7 foot is a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
That's incredible. That's so funny.
Chad says 7'4". That's crazy, man.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I love the idea that that like these famous athletes and stuff are into fantasy, and I don't know, like one of my friends that I was saying was into baseball. He kind of very recently joined our like friend circle and started hanging out a lot. When I first met him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm into sports and I'm into music and all this stuff." And I was like, "Okay, he'll probably be like good friends with this guy," and like kind of like in my head. And then like a couple hours later, somebody asked him like, "Oh, what else do you like to do?" He's like, "Well," he's like, "I don't really tell people this, but I read a lot of fantasy books." And I'm like, "Oh,
Just like, I'm right here. Come over here. Come on over."
Yeah. And then like of course everybody else in the group was like, "Oh, Spencer's got like a fantasy podcast. Like go talk to him." So, yeah, it's always cool when people that you don't expect are into this kind of stuff, and I think it's becoming a lot more common nowadays with things like Game of Thrones or even the Lord of the Rings movies. Like when those came out, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that like made fun of those or like didn't like those movies or whatever. You know, it was just like a cinematic masterpiece. Like everybody loved them, and so I think it's becoming a lot more common now with things like, you know, even admittedly with things like the Wheel of Time show and Rings of Power, as much as I despise those shows, I think they are bringing people into like the nerdy fandom and kind of, you know, spreading the good word far and wide.
Yeah, I wonder how many more people read the books, like are introduced to a fantasy show and then go off to read the books. Obviously, that'd be a hard thing to like gauge numbers on, but I mean, I know they come out with they reprinted the Wheel of Time with new like or new TV show covers and stuff. Like, do people are sales also going up? They probably are.
Yeah,
I wonder how much.
I mean, I think it's got to be like a pretty decent number because, you know, not that Twitter is the place to like gauge any real metrics by, but I see people all the time who are like, "Oh, I saw the show and I loved it so much that I picked up the book." I see that all the time. And so I have to imagine that that is a pretty popular sentiment. And even things like even things that I'm not like initially interested in, like I was never interested in the Silo trilogy by Hugh Howey, but after the Apple TV show, I watched that and I'm like, I love this so much. I just want to sit in this world for longer. I want more of this story. I want more of this characters. So I went and picked up the first 2 books and read them back to back. And I think that would be possibly a pretty common experience for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was thinking more of like, you know, your average everyday Joe who doesn't really like fantasy books. Is he gonna watch Wheel of Time and then pick up the book? But yeah, for us, like I also have not read Silo, but if I need to watch the show. That's been on my list. I've heard it's great.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch. It's so good.
But, yeah, then I would probably read the books as well.
Yeah. It was one of the rare instances where I actually thought the show was significantly better than the book. Usually I'm the guy leading the charge, like, the show sucks, read the book. But on this, I was like completely flip-flopped, where I'm like, oh, this show is so amazing, though.
Another thing I was just thinking about, too, and again, I know this is not in our fantasy community, but for a lot of the people that, you know, don't or haven't been into fantasy or haven't really been into really anything on our side of the street, a lot of people don't like to read. So like I've met a lot of people that watch shows, but they're just not willing to read a book, and I'm like, man, you're missing out on a whole lot of goodness. And that's why I'm always like, well, try Audible, like, because I listen while I'm working every day, and that's all I do. I don't really read books, but I do because I listen to them every day.
Right.
And I've gotten a couple people at work to start listening to books, and they love it. Like, you just gotta try it out.
I mean, like, how did I get you into it? I literally just played a book on a speaker, and I was like, "You're gonna listen to this," and then you're like, "Oh, maybe I like audiobooks."
That was the end of the story, man. I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, Yeah, I think audiobooks are one of the things that is making reading a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
Um, I've been reading fantasy like in physical form since I was probably like 17, 18. But there was a large portion of my life, probably in my like mid to late 20s, where I just didn't have time to sit down and read a book. And I was like, man, I miss these stories that I used to read all the time, but I just don't have time to like actually do it. And I think audiobooks made it so much more accessible for me to where, like you said, like I work in construction. I can put headphones in, listen to a book all day while I swing a hammer and get a whole story in my brain.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you like audiobooks, Steven?
Yeah, I go back and forth. I like I like listening. I just struggle sometimes because I'll tune out or whatever, and then 5 minutes pass and I've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
And so
and
it's a lot of
that's
back
fair.
and forth.
Totally. And I think that I do the same thing sometimes. I think you have to be like wired, well, not wired for it, but people that like reading books, I feel like would have a harder time focusing on somebody else talking. If that makes any sense?
It's
I
a
don't know.
hard
Yeah.
transition, or at
Yeah.
least it was for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's as far as the utility of it, it's awesome. It opens the door to so much more reading that can be done. So yeah, I take advantage of both. Sometimes if I like really need to crunch through, I'll turn up Audible to like 3x, and then also have the
Whoa.
book.
3x
Also have
is
the
hot.
book
Oh,
open.
oh, okay. All right.
You got it. No 3x without the words is not possible.
I was
But
gonna
then
say
you
my
also
my
you got-
fastest is 2. That's all I can
Right,
do without the book.
then you go through and then you just like it's a direct download into your
Totally. That's
Okay,
good.
because you're able to read the page at a
And
3x
also here,
speed.
yeah, just blaze through it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
So if you were listening, like let's say you took two separate instances where you were listening to a book on 2x just in your day-to-day life or reading it physically, would you read it physically faster than you would listen to the audiobook separately?
I would think that you could, right? I mean,
Because for me, audio, like I can't read that fast. I don't think. I don't think
Yeah.
I can like zip down a page.
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I would probably read it a little bit faster, but it's like I feel like I would skip over certain things in different ways. Because sometimes when I read, I won't actually like read every single word, but you kind of like read the sentence and like
Yeah, and you get
Right.
what's going
Get
on.
Your brain
Yeah,
kind of
right?
puts it together. Yeah.
yeah. But if you listen, you obviously can't skip the words because
No.
it's a recorded track.
Yeah.
But I feel like my brain also tunes out certain words.
Right.
Yeah.
So neither one like gives me exactly 100%.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me with audiobooks, unless it is a really, really impressive action scene, I think most of the time in audiobooks, the action scene is just kind of like happening and I'm not really like focusing word to word. Like I feel like sometimes they go by and I'm just like, these guys won. That's what I know.
Yeah.
and like when I'm reading something physically, I'm like highly like focused on the action scene and like who's doing what and whatnot. But I definitely, when I was younger, when I was reading things physically more, I would definitely like just skip whole chunks. Like if I'm like I just don't like this conversation, I would just jump down to the next
Yeah.
paragraph. I'm sure people are gonna crucify me for that.
No,
but-
I've done that too. I feel like that's a younger thing. You're like, I
Yeah.
don't like this part. Let's just go to where the next
Yeah.
thing starts happening.
Oh, for sure. Let's see. What other topic do I have? What's the or do you have any like major plans for Fantology in the future? Like anything you're looking forward to? Any like authors you want to get on specifically?
Yeah, having more authors is always fun. It requires more preparation, more
Yeah, a
work,
lot more
and
planning,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, having an author every week is just not like I wouldn't want to do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
there'd be some ones. I've been jealous for a long time that Friends Talking Fantasy got Joe Abercrombie on,
Oh, right.
and I think that would be awesome if I could somehow swoop in
Yeah.
and get him sometime because he's got a new book coming out probably later this year, and around, that's the time that authors are
Yeah.
doing interviews, is typically around the time their books are launching.
Okay. Yeah, I bet you could get Joe Abercrombie. There's a do you talk with Adrian Gibson from FanFi Addict?
I have not.
I would reach out to him. He's helped me a lot with getting like what's it called, the PR person, like their
Oh, okay.
contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's got me. I haven't like reached out yet because Jim Butcher was doing like a whole round of conversations specifically for the new Cinder Spires book, and I wasn't really interested in talking about that because I haven't read them yet. But he got me the email for his PR person, and so I'm like, eventually we could probably talk to Jim Butcher. I don't know. But did you see that Jake Bishop got to talk to Jim Butcher?
I did not. Jim, I think Jim would be a fun interview. I assume he's a good interview.
Jim,
He
yeah,
seems like he's got a lot of personality.
Yep.
yeah, he's got a ton of personality. Yeah, our friend Jake just recently got to interview him, and it was so cool because, if you watch a ton of Jim Butcher interviews, a lot of these interviewers kind of ask the same things over and over, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
how
I'm
did
sure
you start
the authors,
writing it?"
Yeah, right.
And Jake has seen all of those, and so he wrote questions that were specifically like had never been asked before. So it's a really good interview. I highly recommend
Nice.
it.
Yep.
But yeah, it can be hard to get authors sometimes. But you guys got to interview James Islington, who wrote Will of the Many.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That
cool.
was definitely one of our top author interviews, and he was fun to come on.
Really?
He was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, was that like did that just like happen from like Twitter, or was that like a reach out to the publisher thing?
Yeah, how was that? I think it might have just been Twitter. So, do you guys do arcs? Do you
Yeah.
have you got into that? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was one of the first ones, I think, to post like a really in-depth review of the book, because I got it right away, and I liked his other series, and I just loved it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Read it really quickly, and so I put down a booktube video of it, and really liked it. And I don't know if he saw that or whatever, but then when I messaged him, he was pretty responsive, and was
cool.
totally down to
Awesome.
hop on. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Was that for Licanius, or was that Will of the Many?
For the Will of the Many specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have you gotten around to reading Licanius?
Yeah, I read those years ago, and I think when we were first starting, the third book had come out recently. So one of our first 10 or so episodes was about the third book, The Light of All That Falls.
Was it that
I think it's
long
the name.
ago? That's crazy. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
no, it came out a while ago, and I liked that series. I didn't think it was anything, extremely awesome, but I did enjoy it quite a bit.
Okay.
And so when I saw he was coming out with this new series, I was like, hop on that for sure. And it
Okay,
very
cool.
good. If he continues this quality for the rest of the series, it could be an all-timer for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the next books.
Yeah, we just had an episode on Will of the Many, and I'm like, dude, book of the year is either this or Empire of the Damned. Like it's one or the other, and I'm not sure which way it's gonna go. Because I've rereading Will of the Many for that episode, I was just like, dude, this book has like no right to be this good. Like, it is so amazing. Like, I love this book so much. And it just came out of nowhere. I feel like one day it was just there and everybody was talking about it, and yeah, it's amazing.
I know Petrick put out a really good review. He loved it as well. I think that probably gave it a big boost because he's pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that if we enjoyed Will of the Many, would we like Licanius, or are they very different?
They're different. I think you would still like it. So you haven't read, neither one of you have read Licanius?
No.
Nope.
It's much more of a traditional epic fantasy style. It reminds me a lot of something like The Wheel of Time, almost, just a much more condensed version
Okay.
because it's only a trilogy. It
Does
doesn't
it
help that
feel
Michael
modern?
Kramer. It does, yeah. It's not like too old fashioned, and
Sure.
maybe part of it is that Michael Kramer reads it and he read The
Oh,
Wheel of Time, so
okay.
yeah, very similar feels. But it's, I mean, it starts that I don't. I guess I won't spoil anything, but there's a lot of traditional fantasy tropes as you go through. There is a nice twist to it about I want to say like halfway through the first book that
Okay.
gives it more of a sci-fi element feel to it that's provide that and that element provides a lot of interesting stuff. And
Yeah.
then there's a big he does have a nice use of this whole like philosophical discussion of free will versus deterministic
Right. Okay.
type of thing throughout, which so there's some good elements to it. It's not just like cookie cutter boring
Yeah.
Okay.
copy of old fantasy. There's some modern elements to it, but I mean those are the highlights. There's also I don't know if like any of the characters were super memorable for me, and the plot itself meanders a bit. So yeah, like while I liked it and I do recommend it to people if they like if people tell me they like Wheel of Time and especially when people tell me they want clean fantasy because that can be
Oh,
a
okay.
thing
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yep.
Like that's a good recommendation.
Okay. Cool. Do you think that it's I think I know the sci-fi element to it that you're talking about because it's kind of been
Okay.
tossed around on BookTube and stuff. Is it? Do you think is there any connection to Will of the Many?
Oh, interesting. I don't think so, but that
Okay.
would be cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any evidence for that, but I'll have to watch for it
Oh, okay.
when the next book comes out.
Yeah.
Strength of the Few, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's cool. You guys also talked about you talked about Night Angel Nemesis, and I feel like you felt very similar to me on that
Okay.
book potentially. It's been a while since I've seen your episode on it, but I think well, I'll let Gabe go. What did you think of your just like your overall opinion of Night Angel Nemesis?
Oh man, it's been a while, but I remember liking it quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
because it made
I
it into your end of the year thing, right?
yeah, yeah. I know I did like it, and I think that there were some parts that were drawn out. I think I was just mostly excited because it had been so long since
Yeah,
we lost the train,
Mm,
right? And then this was the new thing that came out, and so I was just very hooked on that. Um,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I'd have to go back. I do remember enjoying it. I don't know if it was like I know there were some parts that were drawn out and all this, but I do remember Spencer not enjoying it.
yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily that I completely didn't enjoy it. I think I got into it and it just wasn't what I expected from the
Yeah,
next Night Angel book after where
yeah.
we
It's very
left.
different for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you can tell that a lot of time has gone by specifically for Brent Weeks since the end of Night Angel trilogy to this one, because it just feels like a very different writing style. And I think that it didn't help that he switched narrators, like for the audiobook, because I really loved Paul Bomer, and then we get Simon Vance, who's like this old man trying to do a very young boy's voice for the book, and it just didn't
Mm,
quite work for me. And so I think that was kind of a big bummer. I think I agree with Gabe as far as like on the one hand I loved it because it's more Night Angel, and
yeah.
the original Night Angel trilogy is in my top 3 of all time for
Hands
favorite
down.
series.
Yeah,
And so I think I had a lot of expectations. I think I enjoyed it because it's more Night Angel, but I also think that there was some parts where it was definitely lacking. Yeah.
yeah. I was a bit disappointed. I think is probably the best word
yeah.
for it. So Brent Weeks. I think I read his Lightbringer, like the whole Lightbringer series, before reading any Night Angel stuff,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I really liked that series. The last book was okay. That also
Yeah.
it might have been a little disappointing ending, but I liked that quite a bit. And then I went back and read the Night Angel trilogy, and I liked it. I don't think I like it quite as much as as Lightbringer.
Oh, okay.
And so when I heard he was coming out with more Night Angel stuff, I was excited to see what was going to happen next, and pick up on these characters, because I think the characters in the series are quite strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit, yeah,
It was a little
disappointing.
weird. Yeah.
It was like a little bloated, and like you said, Gabe, and there were some cool action scenes for sure, but by the end, I don't know if I feel like Kyler's character was kind of all over the place throughout
Yeah,
that book.
it felt like he
Yeah.
wasn't on top of his game. Like at the end of the first trilogy, he has become like the perfect killer, and in this book, it was kind of like he was reset to zero a little bit. And I'm like, man, he's making all these dumb decisions, and I get he went through like a bunch of really bad stuff at the end of the first trilogy, but I'm like, still, come on, dude. Come on, man. But my favorite character in that series is Viridiana, and she might be just like my favorite fantasy character in general. And so I'm glad that we got a lot of her in Nemesis, and it looks like we're gonna get probably like a main point of view from her in the second book. I would imagine. So
Yeah, they expanded on her character a lot, and I think that was definitely a benefit. Yeah.
yeah. Well, speaking of books, I noticed you have a really nice shelf behind you, and I wanted to ask you what your favorite like special editions or like hardcovers or like signed books, like what do you have back there?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I got on the book collecting train, and it's a fun thing. It's an expensive thing that
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, sometimes I question myself here, but
Yeah.
and it's addicting, because like once you start a series, you have to continue
Yeah.
collecting the rest
Gotta
of
get
the
everything.
series.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
so easy to justify this, right? So yeah, so I like a lot of the Subterranean Press stuff. I think
Oh,
they
yeah.
have a lot of series, and
It's so
and they put out-
expensive, but it's so
yeah,
good.
yeah. So the top there behind me, that's all the Dresden books,
Awesome.
Um,
That's what I got
which
up
is
here too.
a fun set. Yeah. Okay. Nice. And then below, I've got the Sanderson books, the leather bounds that he's put out so far. Those
Okay.
are nice because they look nice, but they're also like weirdly not as expensive as a lot of the other limited
yeah.
editions. They're really good value.
Yeah.
Nice.
For your Dresden books, do you have since the beginning hardcovers like Stormfront and onward?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and
Dude, what
Yeah,
did you
so you're-
pay for the first like 7? Because I have all the way to Proven Guilty. I was very fortunate to find Proven Guilty. Anything before that is like $400 for a hardcover.
Yeah, and the first two especially are
Oh, yeah.
are quite pricey. I think I bought like you said, the first 5 or 6. I think I found them together. They were at least like a couple thousand,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more.
Oh man, you are dedicated.
Hopefully my
He's a
parents
fan.
aren't watching this.
He's a fan.
Yeah.
I love the Dresden Files.
I saw somebody online saying, and I've been trying to do this. If you go to, I wish my area that I live in had more libraries, because lots of people on the Dresden Files Reddit have said that if you go to a library and you bring like the paperback version of the book, they don't really care what version they have. And so you go there, and if you find a Dresden Files like 1 through 7 or whatever, bring that to the front and say, I will buy this and I will give you a paperback to like trade out with, so you guys still have the book and you have money. And people say that 99% of the time they're like, oh sure.
Wow.
And they just do it. And so
That's definitely sounds like a life hack right there for us.
yeah,
nerds.
and so that's
If
what
you
I'm
can
trying
find
to
it,
do.
I mean, how
If you can
often
find it, yeah.
people-
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the tough part.
that'll be the thing.
I haven't
sure.
found it yet. So
Yeah.
How do sub press editions end up at a library? That's crazy.
just gotta be somebody
are
that
you
doesn't
talking
know
about
their worth, you know?
Subpress?
Oh, you just mean any? Any
Yeah,
hardcover.
just for the normal hardcovers of Dresden Files.
Yeah, the right.
One through Deadbeat are out of print, and Proven Guilty is
Oh,
closed.
okay.
So it's really hard to even find a Proven Guilty.
Okay, so let me amend that. When I threw out that that couple $1,000 number, I was talking about the subpress editions.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, the normal hardcovers. Yes, I remember looking for those. I actually never got those. I just still have the softcover editions of those.
Right.
I decided I was going to. I did limit myself in that regard of saying if I'm going to do a special edition, I'm only going to do. That's where I'm going to put my money in for this series. Yeah, I'm very economical with the decisions here.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't get me wrong. I would love the sub press editions. I think they're beautiful. But it's wild how even to just find the normal hardcovers, like 1 through whatever Deadbeat is, like 6 or 7 or whatever. Dude, you go online, you try to find Stormfront, it's like $500-$600, and it gets less and less as you go up. So I could probably, well, Deadbeat's really hard, but I could probably find like Blood Rights for like $200 or something. But Deadbeat and then Stormfront through Grave Peril are going to be super, super expensive. And it sucks. It's like they're just completely out of print.
I guess when the series started, it wasn't popular and they only had a few print runs or something. Yeah,
it's pretty wild. Okay, what other editions do you like? What do you have?
So below so it's the Murderbot book that I've got facing at, which I'm reading right now.
Wanting to read that. I was told about that a while ago from one of my fiance's friends, and I don't know much about it, but I was just told that I would probably like it.
Yeah,
I think you probably would. I'm finishing up Network Effect, the 5th book right now, and they're a really easy recommend because the first 4 are all novellas, and they're like 3 or 4 hour listens. So yeah, I mean, invest 3 hours, see if you like it or not, and then if you do, you've got a few more that you can listen to as well. Yeah. Book 5 is a full length novel, so that one's, and I think that one won like the Hugo and the Nebula, or it's the series itself has won at least both of those. I don't know which books won the awards, but it's pretty good, and they're also making a TV show.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think one of the Skarsgård brothers, are they brothers? Those
sure.
actors? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. One of
Bill
them
and
is...
then just one other one, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's that's sticking out there, and then I've got the First Law books beneath.
Oh, okay.
Those are a little bit darker in the picture. You probably can't really see those very well. Yeah. Okay. I've also got the Malazan 1 through 10 sub press editions, which were also pricey.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. Malazan,
you're making me reveal my secrets here. Usually when people ask me about these things, I just kind of like nod and be like, these are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of just dipped my toe into collecting. I have behind me up here, I have the first 2 Mina Lima Harry Potter books, and they are so good. Have you seen these?
I haven't. I know there's a lot of different editions. What are those ones?
He's going to show them to you right now.
Yeah, 1 second.
Nice.
He loves to show them off. They are gorgeous.
Are these like the... Well, I'm not even going to speculate. I'll just wait to see.
There you go. Yeah. You're probably right, though, in your speculation.
The Mina Lima are like these beautiful special editions, and every single page has artwork. Like you can open it to any page and it'll have some sort of artwork on it, even if it's just like little things like that or whatever. And then it has these other pages that are like...
It's got foldouts?
Yeah, they're like interactive.
Yeah. Nice. Like pop-out books.
That's
and
so cool.
Some of them have like little levers on it. So there's one where it's Salazar Slytherin, like the statue of him in the Chamber of Secrets, and if you pull the
snake
tab,
comes out.
Yeah, he opens his mouth and the snake pops out. They're really awesome, and they're not super expensive. Some of them are like are like super pop out like that. There's a lot of really cool things, and so yeah, I've absolutely loved these editions. I had enough money for the first two, and now I need to get the third one because that's the one that just came out.
That's how it works. You start collecting,
Yeah.
and then you've got to go through the
Lights
rest.
a fire.
Yep.
Lights a fire.
I have to get the other two. And then I got, have you read the Threadlight Trilogy by Zach Argyle?
No, I have
It's
not. The author's name sounds familiar, but I haven't.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's kind of
Lightbringer.
like, yeah, if
Right?
Lightbringer and Mistborn had a baby.
Yeah.
And it's about like a dad who, his name is Chris Valerian, and he's kind of the head of police, or the head of the guards, for a lack of better term. It's not set in modern day, it's like medieval setting. And something happens to where his family is in danger, and he has to get them out of town. Like somebody is trying to take his newborn son from him, and so they kind of go on this quest, like running away from these people that are following them. And there's magical abilities very similar to Mistborn, where they can like push and like jump, or they can like pull themselves towards something. And then there's a couple other colors that you find out about later, but it's all based on color. So instead of it being metal, it's if you have access to the color blue, then you can push. If you have access to the color green in whatever spectrum, you can pull. And so that's kind of what that is. But he came out with and the audiobook is so good, one of my favorite narrators ever. But he came out with this awesome special edition that was a Kickstarter. It looks a lot like Brandon Sanderson's.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got a Shardblade there.
Yeah.
That is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Is the so how big is the series? Is it complete? Where
It's
are
a
we at?
trilogy.
Yeah,
right now.
it's a
Yeah.
trilogy.
Yep.
It's complete. This thing has all 3 books in it, and you can get the omnibus on Audible for 1 credit. It's all in one thing. And then same with like the Kindle, you can just get it all for one dealio, and it's amazing. I highly recommend it. I can't recommend that series enough.
Okay, I'll
really-
check that out.
Really stuck the landing with it. But yeah, those are kind of my two big ones. This was like like well over $100 for this one, so that's kind of like my big spending.
I mean, that
special
seems like a
edition.
pretty good value for. 'Cause
Yeah,
that,
oh yeah.
it looks really pretty.
Yeah, it's really nice. The other one that Gabe and our friend Sam was giving me crap for was there was like a Black Friday deal a couple years ago where I got Empire of the Vampire at Barnes & Noble, and it was like a special edition, and it was signed and everything. And so when have you read that, by the way?
I haven't.
Oh, you should check it out.
I'm
If you
I'm striking out on all your recommendations.
No, that happens
that's fine.
frequently. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. There's a lot of books
Yeah.
out there.
If you want a really dark story with vampires that are actually scary, like not like sparkly like hot vampires, but like actual like vampire hunting kind of vampires, then check out Empire of the Vampire. It's amazing. You follow this guy named Gabriel, who is there's kind of 2 timelines going on. There's one when he's a kid and you see how he became this vampire hunter, and then you see one when he's an adult where he is the last vampire hunter. And so you're kind of following both of these timelines and connecting the pieces as you go along. It's very, very good. But yeah, so I got the first book in a special edition, and then when the second book came out, Empire of the Damned, I was like, oh, I have to get the special edition. Like, it has to match. Like, it's something in my brain was just like, I need it to be signed, and I need it to match. And so I went to Barnes & Noble because that's where I got this signed edition. And I'm like, oh, if I get the Barnes & Noble edition, it'll be signed. And when I showed up, none of them were. It was the Barnes & Noble edition, but it wasn't signed. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, my other one is signed. And so it was already past the time where the book had come out, so I wasn't able to do like a pre-order. Like some of these places, if you pre-order it, you'll get a signed one.
Yeah.
But I just so happened to stumble across, Powell's bookstore in Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stumbled across their website, and their pre-order window was still open. And so it's just like after the book had come out, for some reason they were just like delayed on actually getting it out. And so I was able to pre-order it and get a signed edition because of the pre-order bonus. So that was a pretty big triumph from this year.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice to get those wins.
Yeah. Okay, well let's wrap up here. You said you had about an hour, so let's move on to kind of the end here. What have you read recently, or what are you going to read? What's coming up for you in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, so I'm gonna finish off the Murderbot series. So finishing up 5. I've actually strangely already read 6 because I was told to read them in this order. The actual like timeline of events jumps around a bit, so I guess it makes more sense to read 1 through 4 and then 6 and then 5 and then 7.
Oh.
6 was actually a little bit of a disappointment, so I don't know, but 5 has been really good. So then I'll probably go on to 7, and then after that I need to decide what I'm doing next. I started. Do you know Christopher Ruccio's series, the Sun Eater? Yeah, so I read the first book of that. I'm trying to decide if I want to continue or not. I thought the first book was
Fine.
good, but like not great.
Yeah.
And I'm undecided if it's worth it to continue or not.
I really don't completely understand the hype for that series. I think
because there's a lot of hype.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of interviews with him, and I think that he's a really nice guy, and I would love to support him in any way that I can, especially with some of the publishing stuff that's happened around him lately. He's gotten screwed over a lot, and so I'd love to support him, but I just don't. I'm just not like super interested in the series. I read the first one, and I remember at the halfway point thinking this is great. And then as it got to the end, I was like, this is fine. And then I started the second one, and I was like, I think I got like 3 hours into it, and I was just like, I don't know why I'm not enjoying this. I'm just not. Like, it's just too slow paced for me, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is not increasing my chances of continuing, Spencer.
Sorry. You should read Threadlight.
Yeah, maybe so. I guess that's why I came on today, because I needed some recommendations, and you've provided me with.
That's right.
Yeah. What else have we read lately, Gabe? That's been, I mean, besides like Empire of the Vampire. I don't know if you read like grimdark stuff, but that's a good grimdark recommendation.
I mean, I did point out the First Law books behind me, so yeah,
that's true.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I like some grimdark. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reading. Well, actually, I'm curious to ask Gabe. I read the Powder Mage trilogy recently, or I'm on book 2.
Okay.
And I have loved these. I think Gabe, you started it, right? Did you
I'm
finish
almost
it?
done with book 1.
Oh,
I got
sick.
like 30 minutes left on book 1.
Are you liking it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
I was so worried. I'm like, it could go either one of two ways.
No, yeah,
I'm so
it
glad.
went good with me. It hit all the right boxes, and I love the characters. And I feel like the story's just opening up now at the end of book 1, so I'm very much excited for book 2, because I think the options are quite a bit more, I guess, limitless.
Yeah. I'll say book 2 so far, like I'm probably more than halfway through it, and it is incredible. Like it's like a significant step up from book 1.
The point that I'm at, the world, in the last hour I've been listening, the world's opened up like tenfold.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're enjoying it.
Those books are great. I read those years ago. Actually, probably close to when they were. I'm not going to say when they were first coming out, but the first trilogy is solid, and then I think the second trilogy is even better.
Oh,
cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. I didn't even know there was a second trilogy. Does it follow the same characters, or like
it's
the ones
some
that
of the same
survive?
characters?
Okay.
It's a little bit of a time/location skip, not tremendously to the point where it's like totally disconnected from the first trilogy, but obviously the events of the first trilogy matter a lot for the second.
Yeah.
But I think it gets better and better.
Cool.
And then Brian McClellan started another series It's called The Glass Immortals.
I saw your review on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that one. Okay, honestly, I think I like Powder Mage more.
I've heard a
But-
lot of people be kind of mid on the whatever
Yeah.
lightning. What I forget what it's called.
In the Shadow of Lightning, something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of people be like, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Is probably fair. It's only one book. Maybe it gets better.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the end of the first book did introduce a major twist
Oh, okay.
that we'll see what happens in the future. And you know, if you guys are liking Powder Mage, I think Brian McClellan is someone you could interview pretty easily.
Oh, really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Be awesome.
yeah. We did an interview with him. I think around the time that In the Shadow of Lightning was coming out. He's a really chill guy.
Oh,
He's
okay.
actually also a Utah person.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
what was
kind
the
of.
avenue for getting a hold of him? Was that just like email or Twitter?
I think just Twitter. He's
Oh, cool.
he's decent. He's on social media decently enough where yeah.
Okay.
Although you know sometimes they don't have the DMs open.
Sure.
Yeah,
But-
we've ran into that. That happens.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
They'll see him
There's-
eventually.
Yeah. If you're motivated enough.
Yeah.
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 You can find a way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Okay, cool. Yeah, if I can think of any other recommendations that you might like. You guys have read a lot of books though. I was going through your catalog and being like, "Oh man, we've read a lot of the same books." So we probably have a lot of the same
Yeah.
interests.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of our interests align. Yeah.
Yeah. There is one book that is coming out in 2 days from the time of this recording on the 7th. We're recording on the 5th, but the book comes out on the 7th, and I'm so excited for it. Have you guys heard of the Silver Blood Promise? Have you guys seen this making the rounds?
No.
You know I'm
Dude,
not on
okay.
social media, so
Yeah,
I definitely haven't.
That's
seen
true.
it.
But people like it. Okay.
It's just
Who's
been
it
getting
by?
a lot of hype.
And what's the?
It is by, I can look it up right now. But people have just been talking about it a lot. It's
Is
the
it,
one.
Is it part of a series or is it like a new?
No, it's a
standalone?
debut. It's a debut by
Oh,
James
okay.
Logan.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
I mentioned this the other week, Gabe, where it sounds a lot like a Lies of Locke Lamora thing.
I do remember you
nice.
talking about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And even the cover looks very Lies of Locke Lamora. And it's endorsed by Scott Lynch. Like,
Oh.
Scott Lynch is like, if you like Lies of Locke Lamora, you're going to love this.
Cool.
That's a
And
huge
so-
endorsement. for
Yeah,
it.
it's a huge
Yeah.
Totally.
And just everything I've read about it sounds like it's very much going to scratch that itch. And so Tuesday, like Monday at midnight, I'm going to be downloading that thing because I
Awesome.
want to
Sweet.
read it so bad.
See, I'll piggyback. I'll log into
Yeah.
your account and listen to it.
Yeah, let's do it. I would love to chat about
Silver
it.
Tongue Prince.
Silver Blood Promise.
Yeah.
So okay, I was way off. I got silver right.
No, you got silver right. Yeah.
Have you read Lies of Locke Lamora real quick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he has.
Okay,
The way he just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was obvious. He's read it.
Yeah. No, great series.
That's one of our favorites.
Yeah, it's sad that there hasn't been more.
Yeah,
and,
no
and
kidding.
hard to say.
I
Hard to
know.
say when that would happen, but
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I want. Gabe ran into a trap the other week where he like.
I felt so dumb. And let me preface this by just saying that I am not on social media. I'm never on the Twitter. I'm never on anything. I don't do it. I don't do it whatsoever.
Right.
So now go ahead.
Yeah. So he like stumbled onto like the Goodreads for Thorn of Emberlane. And he saw that it had like all these reviews. And he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, did you know that he put a 4th book out?" And I'm like, "No, he didn't." And he's like, "Yes, he did." And he like showed me the screenshot of it. And I'm like, "Oh, my sweet child." I'm like, "That's Goodreads." And people are just
Yeah.
putting in reviews saying, "I'm so excited for the 4th book."
yeah.
He's like, "Oh," and I felt so bad to like
Broke my
break his heart
man.
like
I
that.
was so
Yeah.
So excited. I had literally just finished the 3rd book, and I was like, "I'm ready, dude. This is out. It's on Audible. Well, not on Audible, but
It's
it
out
popped
there.
up on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all the placeholder dates for the next King Killer book.
Yep.
Sometimes you'll see Amazon say
Mhm.
it's coming out in 2025, but that's just like a placeholder.
Yeah.
It's like, screw you, Amazon.
Yeah. Although I think Scott Lynch did say he wrote a novella in the world. I'm not sure if that's
He's
like
coming out
going
with
to be
2 of
coming
them.
out. Are they in one of those anthology collections, or are they just going to be released?
I think they're just going to be released. I didn't see anything about an anthology collection. I just saw him mention the 2 different stories.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if they're released for free or if they're going to be released as like a novella thing. I have no idea. But I did see that they were coming out. He said sometime fairly soon, whatever that means to him. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice.
all right, guys. Well, let's wrap this up here. And thank you for hanging out today, Steven.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any like final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Great to be on. Thanks for having me on. Good to chat with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun time.
I did want to say we should have you back for a Dresden Files episode because we're currently going through the series. So if we're doing Cold Days at the end of May. So if you want to come on for...
is this like a second read or you haven't finished yet?
Oh, no, this is
we've read the series many times.
1,000 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the episode series that we're doing is for first-time readers.
Book by book, yeah.
Yeah. So we
can spoil everything before
right.
and Cold Days.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're huge fans.
Yeah.
I read all the books twice. I did a reread. Well, not all the books. I did a reread before Peace Talks came out. Yep. So I'm not going to be as much of an expert. But yeah, I'm happy to come on.
Yeah, just having conversations, what it's about, man.
Yeah.
You don't need no pros.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
Yeah, you guys will be the experts.
Did you like Skin Game? You could come on for that one if you want.
I did like that one. I remember it being a little strange after
it is.
14 was Cold Days, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
because
so.
Cold Days was awesome. Cold Days might be my favorite of the whole series.
Okay, you can join us for Cold Days if you want.
You should.
Yeah.
He's like, sure.
Maybe give that a reread, and we're doing it. I think May 25th. I think is when we're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted if I can.
Yeah, check and see if you have time.
Read it.
We understand how it is. We get how it
is.
Yeah.
But Skin Game was good. Like not a bad book by any means, but it just felt strange.
It is
after
strange.
Cold Days.
Like, totally.
Yeah.
It's very
well from Changes to Ghost Story to Cold Days, all of that build, and then we're like back to doing a mission.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
We had a big discussion for Ghost Story because it's my least favorite Dresden book, Ghost Story, and almost everybody else that we had on the podcast, there was 4 people total, including me, and caffeinated covers. She was kind of like mixed on it, but she eventually like fell on their side where like Gabe and Jake Gabe and Jake love Ghost Story. And so I was like, I guess I'm just the odd one out here. But all right, cool. So we'll talk about that further and we'll get that planned out. But dude, thank you so much for hopping over here and chatting with us, and it's been really cool to get to know you a little bit better and just to chat about nerd stuff.
Absolutely. Same goes for both ways.
Cool. All right, everyone. Well, that is going to wrap us up for today. Be sure to go check out Fantology if you haven't already. I'll have their links down in the description for both YouTube and Spotify, and also Twitter if you'd like to connect with them there like we did. You can also reach out to us at any of our links in the description, like Twitter and Discord and all that. But most of all, don't forget about the bingo card. We'd love to see everyone participating in this thing because it just seems like it's going to be a ton of fun when people are trying to fill out their bingo card, and I can't wait to see what episodes you use to fill in the spaces. So I'm really excited to see what you guys do with that. Upcoming content is going to be another Creators Corner with Adrian Gibson from FanFi Addict. We'll be talking about both his podcast and his debut novel that he just self-published, Mushroom Blues, it's called. And then as of right now, the plan is to do a live stream on the 18th where we sit down with our friend Sam. We're going to get very drunk on a Saturday night, and we're gonna absolutely tear apart Fourth Wing. We'll be reading it for the first time, and it's just gonna be an absolute blast. I can't wait.
Man,
yeah, it's gonna be very funny, and I think it's just gonna be a great time, honestly. I'll put something up on the screen right now in editing if this date is changed for any reason, and then just watch our community page on YouTube for updates on what time exactly that will be on the Saturday the 18th of May. Lastly, directly after that will be our Dresden Files Cold Days episode with Jake Bishop and Caffeinated Covers, so lots to look forward to. We'll keep you updated if anything changes, and thanks so much for watching. We really, really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, man, for coming on.